Very fun arrangement, Alex. And a great welcome back to me. uh, I have been sick for the past 2 weeks, and that is why you have not seen any of these evaluation videos being released since, long time ago. I took a week off to organize my end of the month videos, and then I started coming down with some long COVID recurring symptoms. So yeah, I mean, I don't have COVID, but I have the symptoms. So anyhow, but not to get into that too much, I'm just going to pace myself, but at the same time try to throw myself into this very, very cool arrangement. If there's one sort of overall impression I would give you right away, and maybe this is advice as well as just an impression, and that is that you have this kind of walking bass going on. Sometimes it's in pizzicato double basses, sometimes the timpani join in, and it gives it a sort of a sneaky kind of a sense. So like if you intended that, then great. But if you wanted it to sound a little bit more kind of elegant and a little bit more naturally in the period, I think that you might have to work on it a little bit more. Now, just speaking of period, we have horns in F, but we have trumpets in F as well. It's kind of interesting. So, by trumpets in F, we would sort of be assuming like the ones that transpose up rather than down. And just kind of like looking through your parts here, yeah. Yes, yep. This is really more of a transposing down type of a thing, because that would be like a high C, right? Yeah. The pitches kind of go here and there. This A would be out of range. I guess high D. But the assumption, from what I could hear in the mock-up, is that it's a transposing down. So that would be more like an alto sort of a trumpet, right? So it would be better if you wanted to score this in like in a key that was more realistic. It would be better to just score it in C. Okay, but looking at the tuning, right? You're scoring in a pitch that will favor like a kind of kind of natural pitches that agree. So as far as that goes, then I'll give it to you that you pretty much played by the rules. Like we have like this stopped E flat going down to an open D, and that's great. I mean, it didn't show up in the. You could have actually brought that out. There's some mock-ups will, like if you put a plus sign over, in the notation, you put a plus sign over the note, it'll play it back as like as a stop tone. But then what do you do when you have two voices in the same staff, right? Does that transfer does the stop tone transfer onto the second voice and so on? So yeah, I could see the limitations. Yeah, I mean, yeah, so some stop tones in here, and then the natural B flat that's right in there, and the F sharp that's in part of the. So I mean, I can see why you scored this in F, but it would be you're sort of thinking of like a kind of an alto trumpet in D. I'm not sure that is a natural trumpet crook. I'd have to look that up, but yeah. Anyhow, but very, very fun arrangement. So. Let us play by the rules and judge this by the evaluation criteria. So you have like a basis of kind of comparing it to other evaluations that I've had. I can. I'm still fighting off these COVID symptoms. So if I get one or two things wrong, bear with me. I'm also having just a little bit of a problem seeing the screen right now. Just for other reasons. All right, so we start off here, does the intro set the mood effectively? I feel it does. I feel this is one of the stronger, like just in terms of like dramatic pacing. I feel this is one of the stronger mock-ups that have been submitted, and I like the way that the slurs work here in the winds. I think that that's all pretty nicely done. You left one out here in your first bassoon part. And then here, of course, you hold through to the end of the bar with the fermata and so on. So yeah, so this is what's missing from some other evaluations. It's the misperception that like the da 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 dum it happens in bare space. Whereas if you really listen to the piano arrangements, the pianists are holding on to the chord to the very to where this final melody note lifts off, right? So the harmony continues. It doesn't just drop out, leaving this sort of empty space. So I felt that was pretty nicely handled. We have a few doubled pitches here and so on, but like it all kind of holds together and has this nice sort of Brahms symphony movement opening kind of lower winds sound. In real life, the sound set that you use is not very realistic. I wish that I'd had a chance to run this through Note Performer, for instance. I think that would have been much more realistic, and I don't know if that's available for what you're using here. I think next time I might have people check like the box of what application they are using or they used. I just really wish that I had like 2 to 3 months to set aside to get a basic training in like all of the apps that that people might send me their scores in, just so that I could read them in their native environment and make little on-screen edits just the way that I do in Sibelius, but I just do not have time anymore. So watch out for things like this. Like here you have a bar of common time and you have a pickup bar, but all of the pickup bars, all of the pickup bar rests are bar rests, right? They're not quarter notes, right? So this would totally throw off. Like if, let's say the part is extracted and put on the person's desk, they will read this as 4 beats and they might just get completely lost, right? So just really make sure. This also happens in Sibelius, right? That's something you'll also see. So yeah, so really that's one thing to proofread. And then let's see, it's things like this, collisions, right? You have a rest and a longer note in another voice crashing together. So yeah, just try to proofread some of those things next time. All right, but to get back to the question, does the intro set the mood effectively? I feel that it does, and I also like, speaking of drama, I like the little push that you give it here dynamically, right? And this works really, really nice to bring in the flute above. Yeah, that just really lovely. You probably could have like had a little push in the roll too, just to kind of match this if you had wanted, but it works fine the way that it is. So yeah, and the thing that's also nice here is that you you come in with a different orchestral color here. I mean, yes, you've got flute here continuing on as a melodic element, but in terms of the overall sound picture, you leave out the timpani. The clarinets just have a really subsidiary role that blends in really well with what the cellos are doing. They don't really distract too much, and really it's the oboe playing octaves with the flute that works really nicely. And since you have the oboes working in octaves with the flutes, and the strings pick up on that in the next couple of bars, then you've solved your problem of a natural transition to octave. So I feel, yes, it starts with elegance, and yes, it transitions to octaves really nicely. It's a little bit weighty right here in the middle, but you do manage to keep your clarinets out of the way of your oboes for the most part. So that's really important. And giving a little bit more weight here to the doubling to the overall texture right in here with the middle strings. That's really nice. And then when this opens out, you bring in all these other elements. Now, people will be asking me, well, look, we've heard all these cautions that you've told us over the years about octave clarinets. Yes, exposed octave clarinets. These are not exposed octave clarinets. They are doubling other parts, right? So here you got this ba da 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 da. That is doubling the first violins, right? And then when this written E comes in, it's basically the same exact thing that's happening in the second violins and so on, sounding D. So, yeah, and then just like the color of the flutes right here sort of masks any kind of irregularity that any of the overtones that might stick out from the strings, which it wouldn't really. And I notice here you're sort of being careful to keep the clarinets down, right? Like you just mark them piano, right? And then I'm assuming that you intend the flutes to continue on at mezzo piano here, to kind of blend pretty well with what the violins are doing. And I like the kind of the decoration that you've got going on here. So I mean, it works really nicely. And here's where we kind of get into the kind of tiptoeing double bass pizzicato, right? And you have kind of two separate things going on here. You got the beautiful smooth second bassoon providing some of this kind of bass voice right in here, and then you've got the kind of the basics of the F octaves and so on happening. So I think you kind of have to decide which element is more important. The horn scoring here is really nice, by the way, but I think you could just mark the whole thing piano, right? I don't think you have to pussyfoot around. In fact, I think the entire thing could have been marked piano, right? And I think that all the players would blend together beautifully, right? And then you just give the dynamic flex here to the melody instruments rather than the entire ensemble, right? And if you really want the melody to kind of stand out, to kind of breathe into itself over the rest of the group. But this is also fine. Okay, now, so was there a natural flow? I mean, there was. I know there are a couple of people, Peter, if you're probably are going to say, that's not acrobatic. Okay, so look, I mean, yes, it's not. I mean, cellists do this kind of thing all the time, just sort of grabbing the octave and then flowing over patterns like this. But I mean, the point is that it's sort of, it's kind of needless, right? It's like jumping over a string. Obviously, you can't. You can sort of fake the idea of the legato, or there is a way of. I'm thinking about that and sort of imagining on my mandocello how I would still see I mean it's just like this F here could have been supplied by the double bass, right? And then you could just have your cellist kind of playing as smooth as possible, right? So well, it's like not impossible. It's nothing technical, and it certainly isn't anything that should be marked mezzo piano against the middle strings piano, right? See, that's the thing. Like you're bringing this out in a way that it doesn't need to be brought out. Everybody should just be piano here. But yeah, just like this note could have been supplied just by the double basses, and then you just have the cellist flow a little bit more effortlessly, a little bit more naturally over this, and then same thing here, And I think you could have shorter bowings on here, da 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 da, right? Just like rather than da, I mean, it's just like you can just imagine the cellist's right elbow kind of bobbing up and down, right? So like it's. Maybe watch a little bit of unaccompanied cello sonatas or something like that. But I would just say shorter bows. Don't get into too many of these big octave jumps until your cello scoring is you're a little bit more familiar with that kind of scoring. But I mean, it's the phrasing is all right. I mean, if you really want to go da ba, kind of, so pardon, excuse my tuneless singing. I mean, I think that all works fine in terms of the bowing in the upper strings. Okay. All right. So now to get on to the next part, contrast with theme. All right. Okay. So it's beautifully done. We have not really heard oboe as an exposed solo melody wind that's all by itself, right? I mean, yeah, there's a little bit of melody oboe here, but I really like this. Just oboe all by itself, and you sort of walk the line between like harmonic support needed. You just throw it in right here on beat 2, which is an interesting place to put it, right? Rather than the downbeat. So, da da plunk, like pluck da 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 dun. That's very cool. All right, and then it's answered by the flute right here, and then bassoon, beautiful back and forth, and then. Are you sure that you really want this to be down, up, 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 down, up? Like, do you really want that ba 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 ba? I mean, it's fine with me, and I feel that dramatically, this is also, I really love that arc, pushing into, poco forte, mezzo forte, maybe even up to forte. And then backing off to piano, but like with a bigger texture. I think that works really beautifully, right? And then having the answering textures just be like, just winds and first horn. I think that's all pretty cool. Yeah. See, I mean, I think that if you're just going to go with trumpet, like playing like sort of alto trumpet in F, I think that like it probably would be better just to have a second set of horns, right? Just to have it be answered by just have 4 horns, right? Or maybe have a couple of trombones, right? Although that does get pretty high for classical playing. Yeah. Okay. Well. All right. So. Contrast with theme, contrast between lines, harmonic support. That was great. And right here, emphatic color of line. Yeah, I mean, I like the way the strings are just pushing into this, and I like just the way that you sort of vary some of these functions right in here. You've got a middle voice, and you do the reverse direction, the contrary motion full in the cello. So you are setting up some harmonic density here, especially with the horns right in here, and so kind of a bit of a pinning down here of the double bass. Okay, so you're setting this up pretty well, but it's like sometimes with the harmonic density, it's setting up like a full color that's loud, right? But here you're setting it up so it's just kind of nice and soft and natural, right? I really love the bassoons and the horns working kind of opposite directions here, and then your clarinets and oboes and just all working together pretty well with these little triplets in here. So they're just very, very charming in the flutes. I mean, I wish this. I think some people are going to misjudge this. Perhaps less experienced score readers, less experienced orchestrators might have listened to the mock-up and just assumed that like this score is not as good as it is, right? Because the sound set was just kind of sketchy, or just a little bit less in quality than it could have been. But I feel that there's some really great moments, and this is one of them. Okay, especially with this little flute twitter up here, which by the way does not need to be marked mezzo piano. If you want this to stand out, I think it's better just to mark it piano and then have solo on the top. One solo or something. Yeah, and then this is cool. But I think you could have continued on with this, I think you could have kept that going just for consistency. Yeah. Bum bum bum, and a beautiful way to end this, right? So I think the back and forth was good. I think the contrast was good. So no huge problems in there, I would say. Yeah, I mean, about the only thing you have to watch out for here is that the strings right in here, like you're finishing up the motion of these lines, right? And you're setting this up where like the color of the harmony in the winds kind of takes over the top. But the thing about that is really you really will get this layer cake of timbres, right? Rather than having an integrated timbre, right? So if you're comfortable with that, then fine. But it's not the richer orchestral texture you could have gotten by by having maybe the winds take the sort of more harmonized middle voices and the having the strings like perhaps you could have had your first violins up an octave and then had the first and seconds play octaves, right? And had a more simplified, more melodic part in the strings, with the winds taking more of the harmony and filling in some of those things. So then I think you would get a better, like a more traditional, early romantic, late classical kind of a sound. Okay, all right. So now here we're going to. I'm loving this that we're getting into section B. Fresh new color. Okay, well, I mean, it's not, that's just my take on it. It doesn't have to be, but I like the complementary timbre here of oboes plus middle strings, right? So I think that works pretty well. Yeah, and I mean, I think if you're going to do thirds here, so this is a little strange. You got B flat thirds, right? And then you've got a C down here in your cellos, right? So do you really want that tone cluster? I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't care how you scored this, but just seeing as how you're trying to, trying to make this more. I feel that this is more of a period kind of an expression, right? So perhaps this is just a little error here, or I don't know. Yeah, and just a little. Yeah, I'm not so sure that you needed this kind of little cello bass line right in here at all. Really, I think that this does fine for what it's trying to achieve, right? If anything, you could have had the cellos just double these thirds, right? And then if you're going to continue on, have the cellos and bassoons work together so that you maintain that same consistency of timbre. Well, if I'm sick, and I'm getting over this, then I seem to be doing pretty good so far. All right, so here we're kind of getting into the sort of walking bass kind of a thing. All right, now I would almost be tempted to write détaché here, just to kind of let the players know that you're just really using that, like you didn't accidentally leave off, A, you didn't leave off the slurs, and B, you would like them to kind of use that just kind of kind of a bowing. However, like you go on and on and on with this, and do you remember, Alex, my cautions about how these patterns are hard to maintain over such a long period of time, and how you may end up with a kind of fatigued sounding playing, maybe a little inexact with perhaps a less than professional group, or just even with professionals, like you're kind of adding almost needless amounts of effort, right? It's better to split this between two voices, right? So in the Pitfalls video, I was pretty clear about that. Perhaps you were just trying to see, look, how far could I push this, Thomas? Well, I would say that you push it way too far. Like, if you basically just kind of came in with this towards the end, like maybe did like 2 or 3 bars at the end, but split it between the firsts and seconds, or even split it between divisi firsts, right? Just write it out on 2 separate staves, or just like have 2 separate voices, right? It's like having one group going da 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 da, and the other one going da 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 da, right? Do you remember that from the Pitfalls video? So it really is important. I feel that it's just a bit of an ask. I mean, it's nothing that, like, especially with this slightly slower tempo that you assigned here, it's not something that is horribly complicated or off or should be avoided at all costs or anything like that. But I mean, I'm just saying that I think you're just making, it's the kind of thing where, like, this, these 11 bars or however much it is, would be, or 10 bars, it would be the kind of thing that would probably, if you had a chance to get this read or performed or something, but it was in a stack of other scores that people had to look at. That's kind of the place where the conductor might look at it and say, I don't feel like doing the rehearsal time on that. I mean, that could have been made a little bit easier for my players. And we just don't have time to get that perfect. It's not going to sound good unless we have more practice time than we can afford. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's not that there's like nothing in here that's all that difficult, really. I mean, but it's going to take a little bit of woodshedding by players who, might have day jobs, right? Or might still be students, right? Depending on what orchestra you're getting. So I just feel like once again, to get back, I mean, those pitfalls, they are there for a reason, right? So really make sure, like next time, that there are going to be a ton of pitfalls in next year's video, as beautiful as the music is. So really, just please heed my advice. All right, so let's imagine, if you will, that this is split between two divisi parts. All right, so I will qualify that. I will just imagine that one part is going ba ba bum, and the other part is going bum ba ba, bum ba ba bum ba ba bum ba ba bum. All right, so let's imagine that you intended to do that and you forgot to do it and you left it out. All right, and then I'll just judge the rest of the score based on that. Okay. All right, so thinking ahead to widening gap. I mean, yes, sort of. I think that, like, I can see why you sort of like, it certainly is in the strings, right? There's like a lot of, these are all doable double stops. Yeah, but I mean. Yeah, there's really a lot of emphasis on the da 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 da. Yeah, So the first horn part here is going to basically just blast out the first oboe part, right? So it's just like not even, it will hardly be heard at all. You could mark it piano all you like. Yeah, and then then this clarinet part down here. Yeah, that's all right. I mean, yeah. See, like if you'd had two sets of horns here, right? Then you could have had the other. You could have had the other horn part, like playing in octaves with the first, or you could have the third playing in octaves with the first, and then you don't even need the clarinet, but that's all right. Yeah. Okay, well, I mean, I won't be fussy about it. Just like the way that it is, it's nice and full-blooded, and there's like nothing in there that has to not be there. But just to say, like, that it's not the clearest wind scoring, but it's okay. It's okay. Yeah. And I really love these little bam, 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 bam kind of things, dun, da, 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 kind of things going on in between those parts. Okay. Yeah, and this is really nice. This filling in here, and I see that you kind of worked out some some possible quadruple quadruple and triple stops. Was I about to say quintuple stops? See, I'm a sick man. Yeah. It's basically the same chord in both parts, except here you got that C on the bottom. So, yeah, and you don't want to cloud things up too much. I'm sort of thinking to myself, it's doable. Yeah. And then this lovely run right in here. That's very cool. Yeah, and I don't really see a bunch of problems with that. Yeah. Now this, though, like running up to this octave, Uh, yeah, I mean it's doable. It's not the funnest thing in the world. That's doable, I guess. This E octave. Yeah. I mean, like once again, this is something like the players would have to practice a little bit. I mean, especially if they're like community players or semi-pro. I love my semi-pro players. Don't get me wrong, but it's just like judging like what they can do in a reading, or like having almost no rehearsal time. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I don't know if I would give the trill to the trumpet, right? So, like trills, brass trills are incredibly energetic. I mean, especially like if the trill is not going to last throughout the entire bar, and just going to suddenly cut off and then go to the oboes. It's just it's going to be like right in here, and then suddenly so it's really like the energy is. I don't care what your mock-up says; it's wrong. It's not. It doesn't convey the same amount of strength, right? So this would just be like going from Arnold Schwarzenegger to, you know, to the other guy in the Terminator, right? Michael Biehn, right? So yeah, a great action heroes both here, but nowhere near as muscular as Arnold, right? Okay. Yeah, yeah, and then this is done, and you're just dipping over to the D right in here. Yeah, okay, so like this would involve a string crossing, right? Because like this D is like the open D that you're dipping down to, right? But this C is being played on the E string. So you'd end up hitting the A string on the way back, right? So like you might have thought that you had set up something really easy to play here, but that's not how it works. But maybe you could go slur and then like this could be down bow and this could be up bow. There's I mean it's still fiddly as all hell. I mean there are ways you could have. I don't really think you need this D in here. There are ways you could have done this a little bit easier on the player. Okay. Oops. All right. So that leaves us at C. All right, new quality of tone. Yes, this is just beautiful. Like so, here you just go straight to wins after this big tutti. Which I'm sorry, like there's probably more I should say right in here, but as I said, I'm a sick man. But yeah, I mean, I think that this works out okay. All right, so right, and there's a little bit of oboe right in there. That's really gorgeous. Yeah, and I like this. Like you've got everything kind of moving. You got the octaves on either side of the oboes in the middle. It's a cool idea. Right, and then you just have the clarinets take over and kind of go down to this, more of a direct transcription of the piano. It's a great idea, Alex. And then you have this boom, boom, right, and then right in here, I mean, I just feel it gets to be a little too tiptoey. Just kind of like boom, 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 boom. So I'm just like I don't feel that that's in the period, right? So if you were trying to stay in the period, but I mean, like if you were trying to kind of create this kind of more dramatic, suspenseful kind of a thing, then I mean that's perfectly cool. But I mean, I just stylistically, and even dramatically for like what is trying to be expressed here to my ear. It feels a little over finessed. If you'll forgive my judgment, my aesthetic judgment, which really shouldn't be a huge part of this. Right, and then the contrasting timbre, and then just dovetailing right into this. That's beautiful. Like just going from the strings to the flutes. And then bum bum bum, right, and then and I love the way that you do the dovetailing in the flute and oboe, but the just like straight strings right in here. Now look, if these chaps here are going to be slurring, and they should all slur, right? You shouldn't go da da and then ta 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 da dee dee. Do you know what I'm saying? It should be da da, right? So just have this slur here and go ta here. It sets up the ta, right? So just, and then here with these players, just you could make it, this could be one under one bow, that could be under, or you could make the bowing like this. It's probably a little bit easier. A little more vigorous, but a little easier. Hang on a second here. Sorry, I have a... Did I mention that I was still kind of getting into this? All right. Yeah, I forgot to turn this one thing off. Okay. So, yeah, so just make sure that these are both slurred. And yeah, just... Yeah. Yeah, see, so... Yeah, I mean, I think that this just works. Like, you could just work it out and make this into 4 trumpets in F, right? But I mean, good calculations. And, nice little roll there on the timpani. Yeah, nice distribution. And then, I mean, I think that this is very fiddly. Yeah. Ta, 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 ta. I mean, you get just as good results from the flute player as going ta, 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 right? And then ta in the clarinet. Ta, ta, right? I mean, I just think that just try to keep it simple, right? Especially when things are kind of going really fast. But I mean, it would work, but it's, maybe like adding staccatos to sort of like just really make sure that's ta-ta if you just really must insist on that. And then, yeah, these are nice long bows here. I think that's all good. Yeah, and this is cool right in here. You've got this first violins and violas, and then you end up with this nice, kind of going back to where you started, right? Yeah, but I mean, just like. Yeah. Okay, so here's the problem with that sort of boom, boom, bloom, 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 kind of going on and on. Is this right here? You've got this right? I mean, I just feel that like tiptoeing around that, you're distracting from the whole sense of motion right in here. Right? So that's probably the thing that stuck out the most. And I apologize if I just sort of keep picking on this one little scab, on my brain, not yours. Yeah, and then this is cool, like continuing on into the minor part. Yeah, so I mean, it's a lovely score, Alex, and I mean, I just feel that it just shows, like just some very smart decisions right in here, and some nice proportions. I didn't agree with everything, but that's a good thing. I mean, I need to be challenged, and I need to run into takes on this that that don't necessarily always agree with my preconceptions and so on. But I mean, if any of my aesthetic directions or thoughts or anything are helpful, then great. And I think you're getting better and better here as an orchestrator, and I mean, it would be great to match you up with a sound set that's like kind of is worthy of your conceptions. I think that that really stands up to your level of scoring, as it is improving, right? But it's just such nice ideas, and even though like in a way like a lot of these scores that I'm getting, like are looking back at that period. People might think, oh, just, wow, how boring could that be, Thomas? Because that's, the early, the early Romantic period, late Classical. How individual could that scoring be? Well, as we're seeing from all of these efforts, including this one, especially this one, that the take can be very original, right? And of course that's informed by our prejudices today and our thoughts of what it, each has an individual thought of what Beethoven means to us and what that period means to us, whether we've listened to a lot of Schubert and Carl Maria von Weber and and Berlioz and so on, and some of the other people orchestrating around that period of time. Whether we've listened, whether we're informed by that, or whether it's just more an impression based on Beethoven's symphonies and overtures and so on. And listening to Mozart, late Mozart and late Haydn and so on. So, one way or another, I'm just seeing a lot of originality and a lot of very cool ideas. And one last little thing I think that you'll find here with this kind of scoring here in the strings, you'll hear just a ferocious amount of weight with this octave happening here in the double basses. And then when it suddenly drops off here, just for this beat, and then this pizzicato is coming in here. So you will feel the sudden loss of weight, right? It doesn't matter if the bassoons just jump in for a minute or not. It's just, and then this bubble, bubble, boom. So, you could drop these bassoons an octave and they could, fill in, but, just being aware that it's just a huge amount of weight right in here. Okay, and another last thing is just really make sure, to proofread these parts. For the most part, you got, your entrances down, but, I would like to know who this is, right? All right, so really nice work. Hopefully, this is a sign of good things to come, that my health is going to be getting better. I've been out of it for 10 days now, with recurring long COVID symptoms. And it's just, if you're not familiar with that out there, that's just where you feel like you have COVID again, even though you don't have COVID. Right? So it's you're, whatever. It's hopefully this is not going to keep happening to me for the rest of my life, but this was just kind of something that kind of hit me at the wrong time. But I'm going to be making up for lost time, so watch out, everybody. If my health stays together, just expect a lot of uploads coming over the next couple of weeks, all right? And apologies for the delay. And thank you so much, Alex, for the effort that you put into this, and for your support on Patreon, and for your recurring presence in these challenges. It's all very much appreciated. And wow, what you will do with next year's orchestration challenge piece, I'm really looking forward to with a lot of anticipation. So I would say, get ready for that and just start orchestrating all kinds of stuff. All right. And showing it to your friends and your colleagues, maybe posting some stuff on Orchestration Online Facebook group, and and maybe even just posting it on your YouTube channel if you feel comfortable with that, and asking people's opinions and so on. And just get ready for the next one, because it's going to be epic. All right, this worked. I think I might be able to keep doing this for the next few days. So just cross your fingers for me. Let's see if my health holds out. Thanks, everybody.